Did you know that one of the deadliest wars in European history began because a group of angry nobles threw government officials out of a castle window, and those officials survived? It sounds impossible. Yet this astonishing event would help ignite a conflict that lasted 30 years, claimed millions of lives, devastated entire regions, and reshaped the future of Europe forever. Before we uncover this incredible story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more fascinating journeys through history. Every week, we explore epic wars, powerful empires, forgotten civilizations, and the dramatic events that changed the world. Now, imagine Europe in the early 17th century. A continent divided. A continent anxious. A continent standing on the edge of disaster. For more than 100 years, Christians across Europe had been deeply divided. The Protestant Reformation had challenged the authority of the Catholic Church, creating new religious movements and transforming entire kingdoms. Some rulers embraced Protestantism. Others remained fiercely Catholic. The result was a fragile peace built upon mistrust. And nowhere was this tension more dangerous than inside the Holy Roman Empire. Despite its impressive name, the Holy Roman Empire was not a single united country. It was a patchwork of hundreds of kingdoms, duchies, cities, and territories spread across Central Europe. Each ruler had different interests, different ambitions, different fears, and many were preparing for a future conflict. Most people hoped peace would survive. History had other plans. The spark came from Bohemia, located in what is now the Czech Republic. Many of Bohemia's nobles and citizens were Protestant. When the strongly Catholic Ferdinand II was chosen as their king, they feared that their religious freedoms would soon disappear. Tensions rose. Arguments intensified. Anger spread through the kingdom. Then, on May 23, 1618, everything exploded. A group of Protestant nobles stormed Prague Castle. They confronted imperial officials representing Ferdinand's government. The discussion quickly became heated. Accusations were exchanged. Voices grew louder. Then, in a moment that would echo throughout history, the nobles grabbed two officials and threw them out of a castle window nearly 70 feet above the ground. The officials survived. Catholics claimed angels had saved them. Their enemies insisted they landed in a pile of manure. Whatever the truth may have been, the consequences were undeniable. The Defenestration of Prague had begun. And Europe was now marching toward war. At first, the conflict seemed local. The Bohemian rebels refused to recognize Ferdinand's authority. Instead, they elected a new Protestant ruler, Frederick V. The challenge was direct. The message was clear. Bohemia would not submit without a fight. Ferdinand, who soon became Emperor Ferdinand II, was determined to crush the rebellion. He gathered support from Catholic allies across Europe. Armies were assembled, weapons were prepared, and in 1620, the two sides met near Prague at the Battle of White Mountain. The battle itself lasted only a short time, but its consequences were enormous. The Catholic forces won a decisive victory. The Bohemian rebellion collapsed. Frederick V fled into exile after ruling for only a single winter, earning the nickname the Winter King. Many people believed the conflict was over. Instead, it was only beginning. What started as a rebellion in Bohemia soon expanded into a continental struggle involving religion, politics, power, territory, and survival. More nations entered the war. More armies marched. More people suffered. One of the greatest causes of the war was religious division. Catholics feared losing influence. Protestants feared losing freedom. But religion was only part of the story. Ambitious rulers wanted more territory. Kings wanted greater power. Dynasties wanted dominance. As the war continued, political interests gradually became just as important as religious beliefs. The next major player was Denmark. King Christian IV feared the growing strength of Catholic forces within the Holy Roman Empire. Determined to protect Protestant interests and expand his influence, he entered the war in 1625. At first, many Protestants were hopeful, but they soon encountered one of the most formidable commanders of the age. His name was Albrecht von Wallenstein. Wallenstein was unlike most military leaders. He was wealthy, brilliant, ambitious, and controversial. Using his immense fortune, he raised a huge army and offered his services to Emperor Ferdinand II. Unlike traditional armies, many of Wallenstein's soldiers were mercenaries. They fought for money rather than loyalty, and wherever they marched, devastation followed. Villages were stripped of food. Farmers lost their crops. Homes were looted. Entire communities were left in ruins. Under Wallenstein's leadership, Catholic forces achieved major victories. Denmark was defeated. Christian IV withdrew from the war. Once again, Ferdinand appeared unstoppable. Believing victory was near, he issued the Edict of Restitution in 1629. This decree ordered the return of many church properties to Catholic control. Rather than bringing peace, it created even more fear among Protestants. Many now believed their rights and future were in serious danger. Then, from the north, a new challenger appeared. A king whose military genius would change the course of the war. His name was Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden. When he landed in Germany in 1630, Europe took notice. Gustavus Adolphus was not merely a king. He was one of history's greatest military innovators. His army was disciplined, flexible, highly trained. His artillery moved faster than that of his enemies. His tactics were revolutionary. His leadership inspired confidence. Soon, his forces began winning battle after battle. Then came one of the war's most important moments. The Battle of Breitenfeld, 1631. The outcome shocked Europe. Gustavus Adolphus crushed the Catholic army. For years, Catholic forces had dominated the battlefield. Now their superiority had been broken. The victory transformed the conflict. Protestant morale soared, hope returned, and the Swedish king became a hero across much of Europe. Yet history can be cruel. Just 1 year later, at the Battle of Lützen, 1632, Gustavus Adolphus achieved another victory, but during the fighting, he was killed. His death stunned Europe. The Protestant army had won the battle, but it had lost the man who inspired it. Across the continent, people wondered whether the Protestant cause could survive without him. At the same time, Wallenstein's growing power was beginning to worry Ferdinand II. The general had become enormously influential. Some feared he might become too powerful. Others questioned his loyalty. Suspicion spread. Trust disappeared. Then, in 1634, Wallenstein was assassinated by officers loyal to the emperor. Two of the war's greatest figures were now gone. Yet the conflict continued. And it was about to become even more complicated. Perhaps the most surprising development involved France. France was a Catholic nation. One might expect it to support the Catholic Habsburg rulers. Instead, France entered the war against them. Why? Because politics had become more important than religion. French leaders feared the growing power of the Habsburg dynasty. They worried about being surrounded by Habsburg territories. To protect French interests, Cardinal Richelieu chose strategy over religious unity. As a result, Catholic France fought against Catholic Habsburg forces. The 30 Years' War had evolved far beyond a religious conflict. It had become a struggle for European dominance. The fighting grew even more destructive. Armies crossed the same regions repeatedly. Fields were destroyed. Cities suffered. Trade collapsed. Famine spread. Disease followed. For ordinary civilians, life became a nightmare. Many families lost everything. Homes disappeared. Livestock vanished. Entire villages were abandoned. Parents struggled to feed their children. Survival became the greatest challenge. Historians estimate that millions of people died during the conflict. Many were not soldiers. They were civilians. Victims of starvation. Victims of disease. Victims of displacement. Some German regions may have lost between 20 and 40% of their population. The destruction was so severe that recovery required generations. Children grew up knowing only war. Many soldiers spent most of their adult lives fighting. Mercenary armies often switched sides when offered better pay. Loyalty became secondary. Survival became everything. Despite the suffering, the war also transformed military history. Commanders experimented with new tactics. Armies became more organized. Weapons became more effective. Logistics improved. Many historians consider the conflict a bridge between medieval warfare and modern warfare. By the 1640s, however, exhaustion had spread across Europe. No side could achieve complete victory. Resources were running out. Populations were devastated. The desire for peace was finally becoming stronger than the desire for war. Negotiations began. Diplomats gathered. Arguments continued. Compromises were difficult. But after years of discussion, an agreement was finally reached. In 1648, the Peace of Westphalia ended the 30 Years' War. Its significance cannot be overstated. The treaties reshaped Europe. They weakened the authority of the Holy Roman Emperor. They strengthened France. They increased Sweden's influence. And perhaps most importantly, they helped establish the principle that sovereign states should govern their own affairs without outside interference. Many historians consider the Peace of Westphalia one of the foundations of the modern international system. Even today, its influence can still be seen in global diplomacy. The impact of the 30 Years' War extended far beyond politics. Economies required decades to recover. Populations had to rebuild. Communities had to heal. Memories of suffering remained for generations. The conflict became a powerful warning about the dangers of religious intolerance, political ambition, and endless warfare. One of the most fascinating facts about the war is that many nations entered it for religious reasons, but remained in it for political ones. Another is that some soldiers spent nearly their entire adult lives fighting in the conflict. And perhaps the most remarkable fact of all is that an event as strange as throwing officials from a castle window helped trigger one of the greatest disasters in European history. The 30 Years' War began with anger. It continued through ambition. It spread through fear. And it ended only when exhaustion forced leaders to choose peace. What started as a dispute in Bohemia became a catastrophe that reshaped an entire continent. It changed diplomacy. It changed warfare. It changed politics. And it changed the course of history. The next time you hear about a local conflict that seems small or distant, remember the 30 Years' War. Because sometimes the events that change the world begin with a single decision, a single act, or even a single window. If you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video with fellow history enthusiasts. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you in the next chapter of the past.